Hey neighbor, welcome back to the Think Tank. It's time to explore something that I've been harboring close to my heart for years now, and I finally found the right time to make it happen. I want to talk about the dying light of music videos, specifically the late 90s and mainly the 2000s, and what one network did to try and take a stand against the mainstream without totally swearing it off. That network was Fuse, where music lived, and for any other Fuse kids who grew up glued to the TV with that, MuchMusic, MTV, or even VH1, I really think you're gonna enjoy this trip down nostalgia lane. I felt so lucky to have Fuse in my life as a kid, and I found out that my good friend Johnny, who many of you might know as Viral Rack, felt the same way. So when he paid us a visit down in North Carolina, we collabed and had a great discussion that I think you guys are gonna love. And also, we did another video that's live now on his channel where we talk about our favorite comfort TV shows that you should really check out after this. Please, please, please subscribe to Viral Rack on YouTube. He's a great person and makes awesome content about music, video games, comics, and so much more. So check out his channel. It's linked in the description, and let's dive into the final breath of the golden years of the music video and its death to eventual rebirth through YouTube. Music videos were kind of a big part, I would say, of both of our lives.
Oh, absolutely. Watching them before school, like on MTV2,
Yeah.
you know,
Like,
or
just seeing what they had for the day.
yeah, just seeing
know.
what the early morning, you know, stuff was being played, you know, whether it was like a throwback or something like that when you could see it.
Sure.
You know, or even like when you get off from school, when you get home from school and you're doing your homework and you want some music on, but you know, the music videos are also really nice to have there in the background.
Exactly. It's a great new introduction to an art form that enhances the music in a lot of ways. With us coming up, you know, like late 90s throughout the 2000s, more so, we started turning away from the MTV types and the VH1s because they weren't offering the diversity of music videos and they were catering more and more to the mainstream top 40, whereas we wanted an alternative to that, and I think Fuse in many ways was that solution.
Fuse definitely filled that hole that like my heart was craving when it came to like a very specific like part of music that I enjoyed like basking in.
It was an alternative space. It was a safe space for those kids who liked emo, post-hardcore, heavy metal music, and they had a show to not only match that, but also show you music videos behind the scenes, live performances.
Yeah, you know, it had a lot of really forward-thinking, or at least different twists on things as far as like showcasing an artist's talent, or again, bridging the gap of the physical media into the digital era.
And that's where shows like The Daily Download came in. And you could see them just showing off like the most popular clips, what was being downloaded most that week.
Yeah.
And they had interviews with those artists, bringing them in the studio, connecting with the fans, not only that were there in the studio, but also at home and wishing that they could be there. Because for me, those live performances and even a show like Comped, where they would show full concerts, that gave me an appreciation and a desire to see live shows.
And it felt almost unheard of to see like just a full show on TV.
Right.
Like that seems like such, I think in a bigwig sense, such a waste of commercial time. It gave you a little more of an attachment because you got to see an artist in their element in full. You know, it wasn't in the sense of like a music video. You know, it transcended that a little more. You got to see the actual talent behind the music itself.
I think that they did a great job with not only catering those live performances and scattering out the different genres. I think that they introduced new and old music through blocks like Loaded, where they would show like 5 or 6 music videos from one artist at a time. That was super important for me to hyper-focus like that because I was just getting into music in like the mid-2000s, and if they're out here showing 5 System of a Down music videos from various eras of the band, that shows me the evolution, and that shows me that there's more out there than what they're just playing on the radio or the music videos in rotation right now.
And it even gives them the chance to have sort of their own, again, that sort of bridging of the worlds by showcasing that, we're going to play a lot of the stuff that we think is cutting edge, that we think is going to appeal to those that want something else, but give maybe like a parent who's into that stuff a chance to see it, you know, once more. You know, and I appreciate a show like Loaded for not only doing that, but as somebody who loves looking at a band from like a catalog perspective.
Yeah, retrospective.
Yeah, it gives you that great dissection without necessarily the same straightforward like documentarian style of like, and the band was at their highest here. You got to just see it. You got to experience it through their music.
Exactly. It's unfolding right before you. And even the VJs that they had, the video DJs that would appear on screen, it wasn't as forced as things like MTV were really becoming. They had people who naturally fit that role. And something that you told me before we started filming, somebody that was associated as a VJ for a few years was...
Sammy Jarouche, who used to host the Rock It Out blog. He hosts like a history channel now on YouTube, but he was one of my gateways onto this platform.
People like Sammy, you had Steven, who also hosted Steven's Untitled Rock Show.
Yeah.
He also was a part of the Warped Tour that they would host each summer. They would have behind-the-scenes access. They were on location following the tour around. It was so cool, and it gave me the taste of what I couldn't experience because I wasn't allowed to go to Warped, so I would watch Warped Wednesdays, and I would see music videos from bands that were performing, and I would get to feel like I was a part of that, and that's something that I didn't really feel when I would flip on MTV or MTV2 as they kind of shifted all their music video content over there and eventually off the platform entirely. Before anything else at all, the short history lesson on it, on how Fuse came to be in the first place, it was born out of MuchMusic, which is out of Canada, for any of the Canadian viewers out there, you probably know. And originally, from 2001 to 2003, it was known as MuchMusic USA.
Interesting.
But in 2003, they rebranded as Fuse, and their motto was Fuse, where music lives. And I think that started off with such great intentions, and it thrived for the first 5 to 8 years or so.
Oh, yeah.
But they hit a crossroads when TV started going downhill in general, when the viewership wasn't there, when the money wasn't in airing music like that, and their investors, the people behind Fuse in general, it kind of got to the point where it started to feel like a sellout as they moved throughout the 2010s and eventually sold to a different company and started airing different programming entirely, like reality shows, like not music related at all, and just airing reruns of old movies and stuff. But that golden era, I think, was one of the most special things that ever happened for music videos.
Absolutely.
Because it was created by people who were super passionate about them and passionate about showcasing not just the big artists, but like we were talking about before, breaking an artist too. Like who's somebody that maybe you found or you think that they really helped push in their early days? Because I think to a band like Paramore, they were showing music videos all the time.
They were highlighting a lot of a lot of the Victory Records crew. Like, I feel like A Day to Remember for me was kind of pushed through a lot of their music videos back in the day.
100% agree. That's where I heard Downfall of Us All for the first time.
Oh, absolutely.
You knew that you trusted Fuse to show you music that you liked, and they knew well enough to divide it up into like #1 countdown was their thing, and they would have hip-hop, alternative, pop. They had it all, and they focused even more on alternative and indie music.
And I liked their countdown show probably the most. Like,
yes.
I watched it easily the most.
I watched it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You needed to know exactly what was going to be #1. Whether it was Green Day, they would do artist-specific ones.
They would, yeah.
Or maybe they were doing one for the genres. And I would even tune into stuff that I wasn't as familiar with. That's how I was introduced to certain rappers like 50 Cent.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, I trust Fuse, and I like how the way that they program things.
But even late at night, Fuse, like with The Dive.
Yes, The Dive was a great program to find indie music.
Yeah, it was a great showcase of that. Or like even when it came to their generic paid content that you would normally see, like, oh, we're going to say this blender for 30 minutes. No, on Fuse you can see label showcases, or in one case the Gorillaz had just a 30-minute block, a showcase at like 4 in the morning of their music videos, of their like press stuff that they had made, and like commercials they'd shot. And I thought that was super interesting.
It's super bold too, because it shows how much they were committed to Fuse, their motto, where music lives. They had it right there in the motto, and I loved everything from the bumper music that they would air in between. I loved the infomercials. Victory TV was another one we talked about, A Day to Remember's label.
Yeah.
Despite them maybe not being the best label that we know in hindsight, still, I discovered artists like A Day to Remember, Bayside. I remember just pretending to be sick on a Sunday morning so I didn't have to go to church, so I could stay home and watch something like Victory TV because it aired on Sunday mornings.
Yeah,
and I knew that.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I was always sneaking out to do stuff like that because they would often air loaded at night when we couldn't sleep or whatever. I would pop out, watch that, and then I would just tune in to discover all of these new artists. And you might remember another segment that they had that I think was so special for Fuse was Oven Fresh, where they would break out these new things. I found like Taking Back Sunday Day,
Yeah.
even Snow Patrol. There were a lot of artists that I just had never heard of before, and I just remember that feeling that is indescribable. It's a euphoria of finding these artists for the first time and being so excited to like write them down, look them up later,
Yeah.
maybe go download their music or like go get their CD, whatever it is.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure Fuse also was where they, I don't know if it was through Comped, but showcased the In the Basement performances in
Yes.
America for the first time.
Yep.
Which was insane to see
Yep.
as like a fan of Radiohead and the White
White
Stripes.
Stripes.
Their In the Basement performance is fantastic, and Fuse was the place where it was broadcast in America for the first time.
Yes, and they were taking that stuff, and like we talked about before, concerts in general, it wasn't
Yeah.
even just like, you know, like an unplugged performance like you would get on MTV.
Yeah.
That's a full-on performance from the basement for Radiohead, the White Stripes, whoever. Those are often iconic performances.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's where I feel like I saw certain bands live for the first time.
Yeah.
Because they were airing those full concerts.
I feel like anytime the Fuse focused on the White Stripes, though, I just felt like I was in the White Stripes for a little while. I loved whenever they showcased that band, because I love that band.
Yeah.
But, like, I felt like they did give a lot of detail to their story as a band.
Sure, and they would give love to all kinds of bands. Like they talked about everybody from Garbage to the Yeah Yeah Yeahs
The
to
Black Eyed Peas, I remember getting a
Yes.
takeover on Fuse.
Absolutely, the
Yeah.
takeovers were a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
they would, 24 hours sometime,
Of an artist,
Right.
or like their stuff, which
Exactly.
is insane.
curating that stuff.
Yeah.
And that was a good point that you bring up, because that came in the later 2000s, I would say, that they
Yeah.
started doing the artist takeovers. Fuse, in so many ways, was the final frontier. It was the last network that had money behind it and were willing to take at least 80% of their schedule to playing music and talking about music. And if they were playing the music, then they were having people, interview. They
Yeah.
were talking about it in some way. You had even Mark Hoppus from Blink-182 had Hoppus
He
on
had
music.
Office on Music. They had their well-done interview series on the record as well. Like you said, interviews discussing...
Yeah. Uranium was the metal one that they did.
Uranium was the metal one that they did, too.
Yeah,
And
System of a Down were on there. So many bands.
Uranium alone, I felt like filled a hole where, like, Headbangers
Bangers
Ball
Ball, yeah, dropped.
died off.
They dropped the ball.
Dropped off the radar. It walked so that Uranium can run. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that they had a lot of cool ideas too, with just the way that they shot things, the way that they made it feel intimate and made you feel connected to the artist. And
Yeah.
that way it was the final frontier. And as we approach the death of the music video, we also approach the death of Fuse.
Yeah.
And then the eventual rebirth of the music video on YouTube.
Yeah.
And that's where it thrives still in
absolutely.
a huge ecosystem today, where the music video is bigger and almost more important than ever, because for some, that's what they see as the major enhancement, the tell-all be-all for the music video.
And in a lot of instances, it acts as almost the sort of beginning of an entire style, like an era of style.
Yeah.
You look at bands like Everything, or even Paramore still.
Sure,
With
sure.
their After Laughter.
Hard Times and videos like that.
Yeah, like they're bands that are still taking that format and using it to extend their art.
It's fun to look back fondly on that. And I think the biggest thing for me is just feeling like I was lucky that I had it.
Oh, absolutely. I said, I would literally, I'd get home from school every day and watch whatever Fuse had on.
Absolutely. I would watch until I could, because they didn't even know we were getting Fuse. And I found out one day, just punching in channels, it started coming through. It was channel 74. I'll never forget it. It started coming through. We got Fuse, and it was like perfect quality, and it's like alternative music most of the
Yeah.
time, focused on that. Right after I had just started getting into that stuff, it felt like the biggest blessing and also hidden secret that I had to keep a secret. So
That's what's up.
it was fantastic, man. And I have love for Fuse. This is, I think,
Absolutely.
our love letter to Fuse.
Yeah.
Because it did go from Fuse, where music lives, into Fuse, where music lived.
Oh, absolutely.
But the end of an era isn't always a bad thing, because it existed. And while there are things that exist today, like free things that might come with your smart TV, or even like Pluto TV, where they showcase music videos from like a specific decade, it's still a great way to kind of have catered from somebody else, not necessarily algorithm based, just showcasing and shuffling things that you can just flip on, and it can take you back to those glory days. There was even a project called the Cool TV in the early 2010s that felt like a worthy predecessor to Fuse, but unfortunately that died off as well. The music video on TV doesn't necessarily have a place now, and it's not something where it's like, oh, they're going to premiere the music video on TV, because it's not needed. You have the premiere on YouTube.
Yeah,
you have the premiere.
It's going to get more traffic that way, as opposed to like finding a specific time slot. It could drop at any time.
And while Fuse still exists today, it of course is airing reruns and other things, much like MTV or VH1, and it's not really about that at all.
It's like going back to your hometown and just realizing, man,
that burned down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot that it completely burned to the ground. There's nothing here anymore for me. I'm just gonna turn right back around in the car.
Just gonna shuffle on back to where I live, where it doesn't smell like fire.
Johnny, thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. If you have not subscribed to Johnny's channel, where can they find you?
I am at Viral Rack on the internet, YouTube, Twitch, music, video games. You know, sometimes other stuff.
General nerdery. Join us in the comments down below. Let us know, did you watch Fuse? Were you familiar with it at any era? Were you there from day one when they launched in 03?
What were some bands that you got into through Fuse?
Absolutely. You know? And were there other networks or other places that you got your music videos during that time too? We would love to hear from you guys. But other than that, please hit that like button on this video, subscribe if you're new, and I'll be back soon for more on ARTV.
See ya. Bye-bye.